Welcome back to episode 17 of Standing Room Only. I'm Victor, joined along today with Ashley and Shane. A lot of news happened in the last week.
That is right.
Why don't you start us off, Shane?
I mean, we had to kind of start in 2017, don't we?
Of course.
Okay.
Look, we all know
Take
what's
it back.
going down. We lost our damn manager because of the Astros scandal. Like I said weeks ago, Ashley's first episode, it's such a Mets thing for us to do nothing wrong and be punished for it anyway.
Oh, absolutely. This is the biggest Mets thing to happen.
Well, let's start with the timeline, actually. So, Ashley, you don't have to do anything yet.
Okay.
So, long story short, the Astros cheating. Early 2017, the Astros started stealing signs from the live game feed through the video replay room. Everyone has a video replay room. It's near the dugout, but not quite there. Alex Cora will call the video room, get the catcher signs. Approximately mid-May or June of 2017, Carlos Beltran and other unnamed players suggested a system presumed to be 1, moving the video screen to just outside the dugout, 2, how to relay the signs, i.e. the garbage can. As a result, Cora had the video system moved to right behind the dugout, and a camera was installed in center field, which focused on the opposing catcher's signs. 2018, the system, obviously 2017 is when they won the World Series. 2018, the system continued, but there was no evidence that it was used this past season. Last year, they start the MLB investigation, and January 13th, just a couple days ago, MLB releases the results of their investigations. And do you want to read the actual punishment, sir?
Yes, so the MLB suspended Astros manager A.J. Hinch and general manager Jeff, what was it, Ludhow? Ludhow for a year.
Oh, no,
Ludnow.
Now.
Through the 2020 World Series. And then from there, the team was stripped of their first and second round draft picks in 2020 and then 2021. Additionally, they were fined $5 million, which I feel is nothing compared to owner Jim Crane and his net worth. And then there were no players that were actually suspended. However, Beltran was the only player that was named in the report.
Mm-hmm. Well, first, how do you feel about that punishment? Is it severe enough to the Astros?
I feel that's weak.
It's not a good
not
punishment.
enough.
I feel like it's not a slap on the wrist. However, it's not a stern punishment.
I feel like it is a slap on the wrist. I mean, I see what you're saying.
is.
It's not quite that.
Because a slap on the wrist would just be a fine, and then you wouldn't suspend the
Okay,
man.
that makes sense.
It might
Because-
be a little bit more than a slap on the
Yeah,
wrist.
it's like
but
you slap-
still
it's you-
not
you slap
comparable
both
to what
wrists.
It should be.
I mean, we talked about what we wanted our punishments to be. This is weak.
Yeah, I was actually listening this morning to the Stephen A. Smith show, the one that he has with Max Kellerman, and he was saying that the Astros players should lose their rings immediately, and MLB should walk into what is it still Minute Maid Park?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, they or whatever in Houston and take that World Series trophy away from them.
I didn't believe that. I didn't feel that way because my whole thing was like, do we go back to all the steroid championships of like the Yankees dynasty and everyone else who won things? Do we strip Bonds of his home run title? Do we do all those things? And then my friend said to me, he was like, the difference between steroid championships, the difference between all these different things is that not the entire team was guilty of doing it.
Absolutely.
This entire team, whether you wanted to use him or not, AJ Hinch trying to act like he didn't like it, and that's why he would mess up the screens and whatnot because he didn't like his players doing it. Bitch, you're the manager.
Yeah, he was aware of it.
You were aware of it, and even if there were players who felt like if they became the whistleblower, they would be penalized within the system for it, you're still guilty of it, and a better example needs to be made so that, 1, this doesn't happen again, and 2, people don't fear retribution to come forward if it does happen again. So I think greater fines and greater everything needs to be happening to these people. And yeah, you know what? Take that World Series championship away. Fuck them.
It needs to affect the players. And another point that I wanted to touch on was the fact that, look, in 1919, exactly almost 100 years ago, when the Chicago White Sox basically sold,
8 men out.
yeah, they pretty much sold their
Their
dignity, their dignity to throw the game, and that's when, although baseball was the only sport being watched at the time, it had a bigger impact amongst the U.S. population. MLB had a huge impact on that. They suspended, including Shoeless
Joe Jackson. Yeah.
and they put their foot down and they punish these players, bans for life, everything like that.
Mm-hmm.
Now you have allegations that there's certain players like the Altuve saying that they wore buzzers on their jerseys, whatever the case
which
was.
supposedly they're saying they have found no evidence of that.
Yeah. However,
there are pictures.
Yeah. However, in this sense, the scale that the Astros went to actually try to cover this up and pretty much act like nothing really did happen, I think the MLB has to go after the players, because if we think back about this, say in 100 years from now, whatever, if baseball is still relevant at that time, they need to look back at the 2017 World Series and be like, this is where a scandal was. Same thing as we're looking back now, 100 years ago, we're looking at the 1919 with the Chicago White Sox. If there isn't and then there's this other point was, do you put the asterisk on the World Series? Do you put that next to their name? And honestly, I'm an advocate for it, because those players are gonna look back.
What changed your mind? Because originally
I wasn't.
This,
yeah.
But the more the reports come out and you realize this affected the
how
Mets.
Deep this went.
How deep this
and
went.
how widespread
Exactly.
it is. Yeah.
And the Mets
look, the Yankees lost. Joe Girardi lost his job for it.
Yeah.
The $5 million fine. I was like, is there a way? And it's not possible. Is there a way to?
Joe Girardi.
Joe Girardi probably lost his job with the Yankees because they lost in 2017.
You're absolutely right.
And I'm not trying to help the Yankees or anything like that, but it was far
also,
and wide repercussions, like you're saying.
It was taken away from the Dodgers, and sorry to say, but the Yankees as well.
Yeah.
The Yankees as well, and it could have been possible that they did it in 2019.
Yeah. I mean, the Nationals just outplayed them.
No, but I'm
Thank
saying
you, Nationals. Seriously,
saying the 2019 against the AL Championship Series against Houston.
Does that give new context to Chapman's smile?
Maybe it does. Maybe he knew something. He's like, "There's no." You know what? I think
even if they weren't using it, maybe he suspected that.
And I think Chapman is he's a phenomenal player. I think he knows he has the talent, and he's like, I don't know what pitch he threw. It was either a curveball, slider, or fastball.
Yeah.
But he probably he's like, I knew exactly where that was, and Altuve probably.
Yeah.
Whatever sign he got, whatever the case was, he's just like, at that point, what could you do?
So we all in agreement they should be stripped of their title?
I agree that they should be stripped of the title, and that there should be an Astros. I know in earlier episodes I was opposed to it. However, now with all the news that's coming out, it's
deeper than we thought it was.
It is, and it's a sore on baseball.
Yeah, big time.
I think baseball is held to one of the highest standards. Mm-hmm. You look at NFL and the whole Patriots and the Flakegate, that whole thing, and the Spygate, whatever that case was, that kind of rolled over. And now I think baseball needs to put their foot down and really set a standard for how teams should be conducted, how the owners should reprimand their players, their GMs, whoever they put in charge of that organization. Yeah. And really make them remember that, hey, look, cheating's not cool, and there are better teams that deserve to win that championship.
Yeah, you're 100% correct.
How do you advise them going forward into this technology age? How do you set standards going forward for things that we can't even anticipate yet?
Well, there was in 2018 when the Yankees, they accused the Red Sox of using their Apple Watches. Yeah. But MLB put their foot down. They said that there was a zero tolerance for technology on the field.
Except to watch the previous at-bat, the replay rooms, which they have the iPads for, or whatever tablets they're using.
And the game changes a little bit as technology goes on, so you have to adapt to certain things. But you know what? Manfred put his foot down. He said, with the Apple iWatches, he said, you can't use those. Mm-hmm. So same thing should apply to this. Why in 2017, not only were they banging trash cans, or whatever the case was, they were using technology that wasn't allowed to be used.
And apparently they were using one of those massage guns to hit the trash cans.
What?
Yeah.
I thought they were just banging.
They were doing both.
No, who knows? Who knows what was going on in the clubhouse? But
some people are worried this is going to affect replay. Like, if they can't get this under control, if this happens again, even slightly like this, they might have to get replay.
But then the game becomes a joke. It becomes a joke.
Yeah. It ruins the game for everybody else.
My thing is, you got to do what you did with steroids. You need to have random sweeps of electronics. Go in there, and maybe it's more frequent even than steroids because it's per clubhouse. There should be. I think replay should be changed to where there's an umpire in upstairs, just like they have in football, where someone's watching the replay and they kind of make the decisions and whatnot. They're helping them out. Yeah, but regardless, there should be someone from MLB, like the testers who come and collect the pee, who's watching, who has a piggyback onto every feed in that that comes through that dugout. Every single feed, from the bullpen cameras to calling back to the clubhouse to the replay. You can keep all the same technology that they have sanctioned right now, the pads, the replay room, blah blah blah. But there should be someone piggybacking to every feed, and they go. And you know what's every day? That person, their job is that stadium, and they'll rotate them out every week or two, so that they don't become like
Favorites.
home field. Yeah, exactly. But they go in and they check all the equipment half hour before the game, an hour before the game. You piggyback it, you watch it, and there's monitoring. Because I don't believe that this is not going to happen in some fashion again.
I agree.
There's the Henry Mejias of the world who are just like, oh, I can get away with this.
Yeah. So let's continue down the timeline. So January 14th, Alex Cora and the Red Sox decided to part ways. And then Cora still awaits his punishment from the MLB.
Of course, Jim Crane, owner of the Astros, fired Hinch and Lau.
Yeah, with that, of course. And then January 15th, there were the rumors that Beltran would possibly be fired.
And we talked about this all day, the three of us.
Yep.
Yeah, and then lo and behold, January 16th, Beltran and the Mets part ways.
So let's see some of these statements, shall we? This is actually what we have right here. Actually, first, before we even talk about Beltran parting ways, let's talk about exactly how he was listed in the MLB. He was the only player listed. We can go this pretty quick. We don't have to read the whole thing. It's on the screen. You can read it. But lo and behold, they mentioned his name once, and it was just saying that he discussed that the team could better improve upon the decoding system, which is kind of what I've already gone through. Mm-hmm. That's it. That's the extent of any players being mentioned. Just Beltran, which some people feel they had it out for him, but we can get into that in a little bit.
Albeit he was the only one mentioned, so you can definitely say that.
Or he was just that instrumental in it. He's the elder statesman. He's in his last year of his career. He wants that ring, and
on that team, he was a player coach.
Yeah, absolutely.
He was like a second bench coach.
Absolutely. And so I don't think it's that they're going after him. It's that it's just we're going to set a precedent that the players aren't punished. Because then that gets into the players' union, that gets into agents, that gets into a lot of mess that Manfred just doesn't want. I think they're pussyfooting around it, and he's scared. But make it a point to say this guy was instrumental. Yeah. And so then the statements come out when they decide to part ways.
Okay,
and so
the Mets go into, we met with Carlos last night and again this morning and agreed to mutually part ways. This was not an easy decision. Considering the circumstances, it became clear to all parties that it was not in anyone's best interest for Carlos to move forward as manager of the New York Mets. We believe that Carlos was honest and forthcoming with us, and we are confident that this will not be the final chapter in his baseball career. We remain excited about the talent on this team and are committed to reaching our goals of winning now and in the future.
And so then Carlos, his immediate statement was, quote, at a meeting this morning with Jeff and Brody, we mutually agreed to part ways. I'm grateful to them for giving me the opportunity, but we agreed this decision is in the best interest of the team. I couldn't let myself be a distraction for the team. I wish the entire organization success in the future. And then he went on to say, Victor, you want to take this one?
Yeah, over my 20 years in the game, I've always taken pride in being a leader and doing things the right way. And in this situation, I failed. As a veteran player on the team, I should have recognized the severity of the issue and truly regret the actions that were taken. I'm a man of faith and integrity, and what took place did not demonstrate those characteristics that are so very important to me and my family. I am very sorry. It is not who I am as a father, husband, teammate, and as an educator. The Mets organization and I mutually agreed to part ways moving forward for the greater good with no further distractions. I hope that at some point in time I'll have the opportunity to return to the game that I love so much.
A few things there. One, how much of a distraction for how long do you really think this would have been?
It would have been a distraction for quite some time because if anything comes into play, any sort of questions are thrown up, it'll automatically be, well, is Carlos cheating? Mm-hmm. It'll be right back to that every single time. They would second guess him every step of the way.
You think so?
I'm on the fence about it. I think going into spring training, it would be a bit of a distraction to the team. However, if what the MLB set out for the Astros was the final punishment, then you know what? This would have rolled over, and by opening day, there would just be a couple mumblings about it. I don't think it would be that big of a deal. However, the fact that...
distraction is still a distraction.
Yeah. However, the fact that now the media amplified this Beltran situation, what was going on. There was no way of avoiding it. The Mets had to take actions. At this point, where the Mets did nothing wrong, they had to take actions and part way with Beltran.
I mean, I feel like yes and yes. Yeah, it's going to be a constant barrage of spring training. He's going to take all the hits. I do think it would die down until, let's say, hypothetically, Cespedes has a bounce-back season. And they're like, oh, he's an aging player. He's coming off of this injury. Is Carlos doing something?
Exactly.
So it could pop up very much so.
It's undermining.
Then again, it could
the team.
not. Yeah.
But you never know.
You never know. You don't know. And there's less places to hide a camera in Citi Field than there are in Minute Maid Park. But it's the uncertainty of it. And the one thing the Mets hate is uncertainty. They like to have. They like to know what they have going on, who they have, even if they want to pretend like they have something great and they know it's going to be shit. It's going to save them money. It's going to save them time. It's going to save them bad press. They've always tried to be like this angelic kind of organization, and they're just not that. So I think they got scared. Because another thing they say, we believe that he was honest and forthcoming with us. So if he was honest and forthcoming, what's your true, like, what?
I literally call bullshit.
Yeah. I really don't. I don't think that he was.
There's no way that you interviewed a person, went through their background, did some analysis, kind of sourced things. Can you go on the internet right now and look all this information?
Or did they know and now that Brody's like, don't worry, it's fine. We're going to get through this.
I agree with that, actually.
It could be. It could have been. Knowing them, it could be either one. But I mean, Brody did kind of step on this. Let's real quick. We have some quotes from Mets who said stuff. But here's
Thor?
Today. Well, real quick. No, not that yet. What happened yesterday was the Mets had their typical press conference because they can't be bothered to show up.
Well, let's see. Well, we have to tip our hats to Mike Piazza first because this day was overshadowed. It was. For some of the fans that don't know, their stadium in Port St. Lucie was renamed after Mike Piazza, and there was a little press conference, and that's where fans thought it was going to happen. But
they didn't talk about it. But we'll honor Mike a little bit more and like give him the due he's just, the positive due. But so when they had that press conference on the phone afterwards, because they couldn't do anything all together. So we all know that the Mets have a strict don't speak to WFAN policy when WFAN went from covering the Mets to covering the Yankees. So on this call, though, Joe and Evan, who are live, they're taking over for Mike Francesa in the afternoon, called into the press conference and were called upon. And so Evan, my man, called them out. And what did he ask, Brody?
So I'll be going on as the role of Evan. So everyone talked about the Astros cheating like it was out there. There were some rumblings that they were doing something in 2017. When you're sitting there for 8 hours with Carlos Beltran, how does that not come up? Just out of courtesy, when you're interviewing... Curiosity. When you're interviewing for such an important position like being manager of the New York Mets.
So Brody pauses and goes... It's important to remember the timeline and that's why I led with that today. And when we were going through our interview process in October, there weren't rumblings, or certainly we hadn't heard of rumblings, and we're not aware of any rumblings about what was happening, with a particular team, and I started on the job in November of 2018, and at the general manager meetings, this was a topic. The importance of modifying the rules for technology was something that was talked about, and the commissioner made it clear that using technology for any, and then it cuts out, then it comes back, not to be tolerated. What happened or what rumblings, I certainly had no factual basis for anything until this process played itself out. Then Evan proceeds to try to ask a follow-up question, which everyone had with their softball question. They got cut off. Yeah. Hilarious. So, first of all, that operator probably got fired because they let the fan on the air. Second of all, how many contradictions are in this right here? They had no idea of rumblings, but certainly didn't have a factual basis for any rumblings.
Just the factual basis? Come on now.
He got caught. They knew. They knew in that 8-hour conversation. They knew. They thought they get past it. This is damage control 101. It's not the distraction. It's not anything but being like, shit, we got to cover our asses.
Of wonder if Beltran and Brody both knew this going in, and they both said, hey, if this does happen, this is what you're going to have to do. And Beltran decided to...
They kept it under wraps.
Knowing the Mets, that's a possibility. Knowing that they went through manager candidates and they got the guy who's going to be their puppet. And he's like, wait, we might have to fire him. We'll come to that road when we get to it. I don't think they expect this to come down before the spring training, I think. A lot of us didn't expect it to come down this quickly, but they did the right thing in getting it out now.
Yeah.
They did, because you know what? You're going into spring training, and you need
That's
a manager.
what, 3-4 weeks away?
Yeah, so even now, I mean, if you want to go to some player quotes.
Yeah, what did Alonso say?
So going to the statement by Peter Alonso, he said, yes, there's a lot of craziness in baseball world right now. At the end of the day, we have to do our job on the field and win the battle between the lines. Great things are to come this year. The boys are ready. #LFGM.
He's staying on message.
Yeah.
That's all you can ask for.
And that's the player's job. That's what they have to do to really tell the fans, like, you know.
To stay with it.
Exactly.
Yeah, because here's the thing. Brody's not doing that really.
Of
no one
not.
has faith in him. No one has faith in what Jeff says. No one. Fred's not even talking.
But
it's
the fans have
he's
more
the guy
faith.
we listen to.
Yeah, well, the fans do have more faith in our players, especially Peter Alonso, the way that he had a surge last year. So I think this was the best statement that he could have put out for us.
You can't have him get into the muck.
Yeah.
Thor, though, made it funny.
This is actually my favorite quote.
This is mine. He goes, my theory. It was Colonel Mustard in the study with the candlestick. Prove me wrong. Either of you?
I think it was in the library.
Do either of you millennials get that reference, though?
Absolutely.
No.
Oh.
It's not just one clue. In Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey, the sequel to Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure in 1991, the new third movie is coming out this year. Bill and Ted have to play Death, the Grim Reaper, to get a chance to go back to Earth and save their girlfriends. So they had to play all these, and so like, you must challenge me to a duel. They play all these games. They end up playing Clue. They play like air hockey, all this shit. And Death's like, I believe Colonel Mustard did it in study with candlestick. And then they look at the card and go, wrong. It was Professor Plum. And so that's why I retweeted. Wrong. It was Professor Plum.
That's hilarious. That was a good one.
I love Thor. God bless you, man. So it is Clue, but it's also Bill and Ted.
And then going into Keith Hernandez.
Favorite player?
So he said, everybody calm down. This is, that's very true. This current crisis is unfortunate to the, is it 9th degree or nth degree?
Nth degree.
Nth degree. But not insurmountable. We have a solid team, good core of young, everyday players mixed with veterans and a solid rotation. They have great camaraderie, spirit, and will to win. And they're hungry.
He ain't wrong.
Yep.
I love Keith Hernandez.
Yeah.
He just resigned for...
for about 3 years.
3 years, 2.5 million.
Good for him. He gets that paycheck.
I love Keith so much. We need that voice of reason. But we need another voice, too. Let's get another opinion on this.
Second opinion.
A fourth opinion.
We'll be going to Anthony Metro _. So he's another Met fan content page that we actually collaborated with on Instagram yesterday while all this news was breaking.
Yeah.
So here we're introducing Anthony from Anthony Metro _. He is a lifelong Mets fan, born in New York but raised in LA. He is currently running a YouTube account which is called Anthony Metro, where he covers all the latest news on the New York Mets, rumors, also surrounding the MLB. You can also listen to his podcast at Anthony Metro Podcast on Spotify and Speaker.com.
Very cool. Welcome, Anthony.
Hey, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for being on the show.
Absolutely.
So, how do you feel the last 24 hours? What a doozy. It's like, what was your initial reaction to all this?
Yeah, I mean, truly just an incredible week. Of course, when it first came out a few months ago, I never in my wildest imagination would have thought what ripple effects that the Houston Astros cheating would have on the entire league, and specifically our team, the Mets. So I was just dumbfounded by all this, and of course it all concluding with Beltran ultimately getting fired this week.
Yeah, it's very typical Mets that we did nothing wrong, and yet we're paying the price for it. But
yeah, sounds about right.
Yeah, so our initial interaction started the day before Beltran was fired. I think on Wednesday, well, we posted something basically saying that since Carlos was named but not implicated necessarily in the MLB report and not punished, because they're not going to punish any players, that if the Wilpons were to fire him, it would just basically be because of pressure from the media and the court of public opinion. And you, if I'm not mistaken, kind of reached out to us regarding that. So what's your take on that now that everything's out there? And do you feel like he was, and we were, as Mets fans and as the Mets, unfairly targeted to try to make this happen without actually handing him official punishment?
I mean, I think that's a perfect way to describe it in the court of public opinion. If you take a look at the 9-page report, Beltran's only mentioned once, and it insinuates his guilt. And, you know, it doesn't take too much imagination to realize that, yes, he played a more integral part than the other players. So I think that's why he's mentioned it, I think, because he's in a managerial role right now. My issue with that statement was that there was no conviction behind Beltran's being named. They never actually said he played a key role. And so, of course, like you said, it came down to the court of public opinion, and essentially everybody realized, yes, he probably did more than is actually listed in that statement. And, you know, ultimately the media took and ran with it. And the Wilpons hate bad publicity, but they always seem to find themselves in it. And, you know, they didn't do themselves any favors, and part of that is also on Brody Van Wagenen. You know, like you said earlier, they always somehow managed to find their way in the fray, even when they didn't, you know, actually participate.
Yeah, seriously. But do you think it's I mean, do you feel like morally it's correct, but logistically somewhat unfair because of how the punishments were handed down?
I would say so in the Mets case. You know, of course, we want to keep the integrity of the game. We want baseball to be played the right way. We don't want people getting unfair advantages. At the same time, you know, the Mets just happened to be a innocent victim in this one. You know, there were some murmurs about Beltran and the Astros. Maybe not so much about Beltran, but about the Astros doing some shady stuff, even before Mike Fiers came out and, you know, did the whistleblowing. Still, nonetheless, it was unfortunate for that to have to occur and for the Mets to have to be caught in it all. But for the integrity of the game, I understand why the punishments were handed out the way they were.
And speaking of the murmurs, we spoke about how Evan kind of called out Brody, and Brody had a couple of moments. What's your take on what they knew and what they didn't know?
You know, I think it might have been a case of ignorance is bliss.
Yes.
Another interesting part about it, the fact that, and I didn't realize how close they were, but A.J. Hinch and Brody Van Wagenen are very close. He was his best man at his wedding. So I have to believe that he had to have some knowledge of these kinds of activities going on. And if he didn't, then it was just ignorance on his part, and you know, not a very good look for Brody at all to pretend as if he didn't know, or not to have not asked and done some better research when interviewing Beltran.
What's your gut tell you? They knew or they didn't know?
My gut is that Brody chose not to dig deep enough and ask Beltran directly. I think he purposely chose to ignore it. So I feel as if Brody was kind of hoping that they wouldn't end up getting caught in this, that the Astros and Beltran wouldn't end up getting in trouble. But in my opinion, being so close with A.J. Hinch and having that interview with Beltran, I think they had to have known some stuff was up. They just didn't choose to acknowledge it.
Mm-hmm. Do you think it's the right decision?
I personally would not have fired Carlos Beltran. I would have stuck to my guns. I would have, you know, told the media that this is the hire we made. These are reprehensible actions that he might have taken or that the team had taken with another organization, but he's our man, the one we chose. I do think it was the right decision, though, and I do understand why the Mets did it. You know, as far as, you know, moving forward now and trying to get rid of this black cloud that's hanging over their head and over Beltran's head, I think it was the right move at this point now.
Do you feel like he actually would have been a distraction going into the 2020 season?
I think that after spring training or during spring training, this all would have just blown away and not been a topic of discussion, though.
So it was out of fear. It was all out of fear that they fired him then.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think that's a fair way to say it.
There's a huge New York media cloud that ruined the sunny day in Florida for the Wilpons, and essentially that's why they felt the pressure to do it.
Yeah, it's rough because, you know, we didn't know the depth of what was going on and how involved he was, and will we ever truly know? Probably not.
Yeah.
But I'm very much two minds on the subject. It's like on one hand, like, yeah, you cheated. You got what you deserve. That's what it is. And on the other hand, it's just like being the lifelong suffering Mets fan that I am. It's just like, great, just another example of how we always get screwed over, even though we didn't do anything.
Yeah.
And it sucks because we didn't know what kind of manager he's going to be. But
And fans were excited to see him. He's
a legend.
And he was a
not just in
phenomenal
New York,
player
but
for
yeah,
us.
I mean, do you think this will affect his chance of getting to the Hall of Fame?
Absolutely. Yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, you look at how supposed or proven steroid players have been affected in their Hall of Fame candidacy. And you have to think that a situation like this is absolutely going to have an effect on the way they vote him in or choose not to vote for him.
Yeah, it's definitely. I think it's going to loom over. I feel like the organization, the Astros, is going to have to win a good 2 more championships before they're not always looked upon with that gaze of just you guys messed up. It isn't going to be until the entire house is cleaned and everyone's gone who was on that 2017 team that they're going to be able to recover from this. And as far as we go, I mean, what do you think of all the billions of names that have been put out there, from Hensley Mullins to Luis Rojas to Eduardo Perez to Terry Collins and so on and so forth? How would you proceed if you were Fred and Jeff right now?
Well, with hiring a new manager at this point, I think because they're in such a precarious situation where, we're less than a month before pitchers and catchers report. So there's 2 ways I think they could possibly go. I would say the first one would be to go out and get an experienced manager, someone that has been there and has done that. And so the 2 candidates that I had mentioned in my own podcast were Dusty Baker and Buck Showalter. I know Showalter's not very popular among baseball contingents at this point because he's very old school. I don't think he'll embrace analytics. Dusty Baker, of course, he gets to the playoffs, but he doesn't really have a long track record of winning in the playoffs, and that's kind of his, markdown on his resume. But I do think it'd be great to have an older guy that will command the respect and the complete focus of the clubhouse, considering it's a young team and, coming off the heels of what just happened this week. I'd say the other avenue they could go, and I'd be okay with it, would be to just keep it from internally. Get someone like Luis Rojas, who has had many roles in the organization. They're big fans of him. The other one would, of course, be current bench coach Hensley Mullins, who, of course, has a lay of the land. He's already in Port St. Lucie working with Beltran and the other coaching staff. He might be actually a great fit, and he was previously the bench coach under Bruce Bochy. I would have loved to see the Mets somehow use some magic and swoon him out of retirement, but I don't think that will be happening. I would be okay with Hensley going in. It's not exactly a sexy name, but it is one that, like you said, he's was supposed to be the bench coach for Beltran. He was obviously there this spring with them, and he's kind of got a lay of the land already that, for example, if you bring a new guy in, they wouldn't have it. So I'd be okay with Mullins or Rojas as well.
And I also, just to add on that, with hiring him, I feel like he would also be good to speak to the Latin players on the team, especially Diaz, who struggled tremendously last year. And he was someone who we had a lot of faith in last year, and a lot of fans still carry that faith to him. I still want a manager that is able to effectively communicate and pretty much bring Edwin Diaz back on the amazing career that he had with Seattle and not just be a total bust for the New York Mets.
Yeah.
So I think
he commands respect.
Yeah.
And Buck and Dusty do as well, but the chances, like we all said, are.
And then you know what? Maybe you bring in Luis Rojas to be your bench coach next to that, and then
that's
from
a
there,
good idea.
Or even just have Hensley in the interim as your screening better candidates, and then if he does prove himself, why not just let him run with it?
See, but at the same time, I feel like that would be a distraction if you just let him be like, oh, we'll only let you run the show for half the season.
True. No, you are right about that.
He should.
You give him the year.
You give him the year. You can't just be like, oh, here you have it, and then, oh, we found the better guy.
True.
Who's going to take all the credit for your success.
But
so I could see it. I'm not opposed to it. I just would, at this point, I'm uncomfortable going into it with a fresh, young coaching staff. I feel like, again, this is... Pete Alonso came out and really said this is not a distraction, but It's hard not to be, especially for the Mets specifically, unfortunately being involved in it with Beltran. And so I would prefer to get a guy that's got some experience, but if it was Rojas and Mullins, I'd be okay with that as well.
Here's the supreme question to all of us. Are they going to fuck this up?
Is water wet? I mean, come on. The Mets just have a knack for just always messing these things up. I don't think that it was fair the way they were judged for the initial release of all this. I think they were put in an unfair position by baseball. But now it's up to them to pick up the pieces, unfortunately. And I hope they don't mess it up. I hope they do not drag out this new managerial search. They already laid some of that groundwork, of course. Eduardo Perez was a finalist, and I'm sure he's going to be brought back in, and they'll take another look at him. So they should already have it narrowed down to 2 or 3 people. And it should not take too long. I'm hoping by the end of this upcoming week, they will have a new man at the helm.
So tell us, how'd you become a Mets fan?
So I was born in New York. I was raised going to Shea Stadium. My grandma and my dad had box seats on the first base line, when they were actually box seats. And
yeah,
had
the poles around you.
Chipped paint and everything. I mean, just beautiful, beautiful seats. I don't care what anyone says about Citi Field. I love Shea. I love City as well, but I used to go all the time with my family. And, bat day, helmet day, you name it, we were there for the festivities. And just something about, I think the colors and the logo, they just resonated with me. There's something really just special, and I hold it very close to my heart, and there's nothing better than being at a Mets game for me.
Who's your favorite player?
That's an easy one. It's got to be Mike Piazza. I'll give you a couple of reasons why. He is of Italian descent like myself, so very easy one. His family is actually from very close to where my family is from in Sicily. I don't know if you saw the naming of him at Port St. Lucie, but he said St. Lucia is actually a city in Sicily, and that's where his family was from, which was pretty ironic. And so that's actually close to where my family's from. So that's the first one. Of course, he was a great player. But the other one, his post 9/11 home run actually came on September 21st, which is my birthday. So
very cool.
I had that personal connection. And then, of course, that he was just one of the greatest of all times. And, it's so fun to watch him.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's great to have those personal connections to the players you love. And you're in LA now, you said?
Yes. So
how butthurt is everybody out there with this whole scandal?
They're not happy at all. They are very, very displeased right now. The Astros World Series was tough on them, but I know they were resilient and they were ready to go back again to the World Series. But after they lost to the Red Sox, they were really upset. So to learn that both of those teams were likely getting an unfair advantage, they are not very pleased right now. They're very upset about this and adamant that both teams are stripped of their titles.
Yeah, it's for once I can't blame them. I cannot blame them for once. I saw that Gary Sheffield Jr. apologized on Twitter to Clayton Kershaw for basically calling him crap in the playoffs and being like, well, now we'll never really know what you could have done that year. So,
How did you get into actually creating content? Because we saw that your page is fairly new, just like us. So, what inspired you to start your channel?
Well, like I kind of said before, the Mets are my passion. They're my favorite thing to talk about night or day. I actually, when I was a kid, I was about 12 years old. I actually did used to have a YouTube channel.
Nice.
And so I used to make videos for about a good 1.5 or 2 years. And nothing crazy, but I got a lot of views, maybe like 4,000 or 5,000, which when I was a kid, it was a lot. Not really.
Yeah,
Definitely.
I found myself 1 in the morning, I'd still be on my phone just scrolling through various Mets websites and columns and just reading about them all the time and commenting with fellow fans. And I decided, why not create some of my own content, broadcast to a bigger audience and, connect with some more fans and just invoke more conversation about, our favorite thing to talk about. And that's really just where the inspiration came from for me.
That's awesome. So what's next for you and your channel and everything?
Yeah, so basically I'm going to be making a lot more YouTube videos. I have a few up right now. The others are just my podcast. So my plan is to be making some more videos with me, my face in person. Some of them will be just covering current Mets news, current baseball news. And then I'll also be making some weekly power rankings as well, where I'm touching on, who's hot, who's not, that kind of stuff. When I don't have access or the ability to make a video, because you know how much goes into making a video, I'll be able to make some podcasts and voice the same type of facts and statistics and categories that fans are interested in.
All right, and tell everybody where they can find you again.
Yeah, so everybody can find me on YouTube at Anthony Metro. They can find me on Spotify, the Anthony Metro podcast, which you can also find on YouTube as well, those same podcasts. Twitter and Instagram, same thing. If you search Anthony Metro, the only difference is you have to put an underscore after for those two. Mm-hmm. Twitter does have a 0. Okay. So it would be Anthony Metro, but the O, instead of being an O, it's a 0. So
okay.
It's kind of hard to get all the...
We'll throw that in post. We'll do some post graphics for you. It'll be fine.
Basically, type in Anthony Metro, you'll find it one way or another. But that's the easiest way to get me.
Got it. Awesome. Well, thank you again.
Thank you so much.
And we hope to talk to you soon.
Absolutely. It was an honor to be on. I appreciate all of you guys. You're a great team. Thank you so much for having me. And, we got to stick together. Keep rooting for our Mets and keep delivering to the fans.
In the near future, if any other drama comes out.
It's the Mets. I wonder if...
It will. Trust me.
Yeah.
Tomorrow we'll be calling you already.
Yeah, right. All right. Thanks again, Anthony.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Nice to meet you.
Have a good one.
Nice meeting you guys.
Take it easy.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
All right, so coming off the call with Anthony, let's head straight into Mike Piazza, who got a street named after him in Florida.
Of course, it would happen the day the Mets scandal with Beltran broke out. It's the Mets fashion to be a distraction.
Yeah.
Beltran didn't want to be a distraction. That's why he left.
Yeah, but clearly, at least for one Mets player, he was.
For poor Mike, yeah.
Yeah,
and they didn't want to talk about that. And they did a pretty good job of avoiding the press questions.
I actually watched the stream and I was expecting, I was like, oh, what are they going to say? And then nothing. They just stuck to the script.
Was the ceremony less pathetic or more pathetic or evenly pathetic as when they named Tom Seaver Way by Citi Field?
No, I think this was better than Tom Seaver Way.
Thank God.
Yeah.
And yet it's in Florida.
Which,
why is
man,
it in
you
Florida?
can't name a part of Citi Field after Mike Piazza?
Something in Queens?
Yeah, come on, dude. I know there's not many streets that go up to Citi Field. It's kind of just Roosevelt Avenue, 126 Tom Seaver Way, and then, the back street. But,
it doesn't necessarily
name
even
an
have
avenue.
to be
No,
leading into
it doesn't
Citi
have to be a
Field.
street. It
Just
could be the
in New
avenue.
York.
Yeah, it could be the third base side. They call that an avenue of some kind, or a way, or lane, or something.
Maybe
or name
a parking lot or something.
or like a gate. They have the Casey Stengel, Gil Hodges. Those are for the VIP.
Not a parking lot. I feel like a parking lot would be more of a slap in the face.
But maybe the bullpen gate, because he's a catcher warming up. You could put
the Mike Piazza
bullpen
gate,
and that's on and that would be on Tom Seaver Way, or whatever it's called. So it would be literally you're arriving on Tom Seaver and you're going into my but you're entering.
That's what she said.
But it's it's the two players that have their numbers retired. They're together. Just like they closed Shea together. They walked off together, and then they walked in from the bullpen together. That would make sense. But no. The Wilpons did it in fucking Florida.
Shane, you didn't call them up and let them know that this was the process that was supposed to had happened.
You're not going to take my calls. I might as well work for WFAN. I was thinking that the other day, going back to the FAN thing, today I was thinking, we would be great because, the shit we talk, if we could get a real job on WFAN... It'd be great because they still wouldn't talk to us, but we'd have press credentials to go in. So it'd be dream come true. We wouldn't have to filter ourselves. Anyway, I digress. I'm going to shut up now. You guys talk.
Yes. Pretty much going into this, so the Mets, they did rename the Drove up to Clover. What is it?
The Drove.
Wow, that was bad.
I like that. No, the Drove was great.
The Drove. What's with me? I'm combining words together.
Well, he drove through it. He drove down it.
Well, he was a nice Mustang.
I think it's his. I mean, he
did
can afford
they give him the Mustang?
Oh God, did they?
Because he was
Did they
joking.
give Tom Seaver anything?
No.
So he's already won.
I know.
On
At
Tom
least he's
Seaver.
still okay to be there to receive the honor. And they didn't wait for him to be on the verge of death.
Yeah.
This is
Tom
true,
Seaver.
which is typically what they do is they wait until the
But-
end of time.
Yeah.
I remember during the live stream that they had, Mike Piazza kept saying, "Oh, thanks for the Mustang," but I don't know if he was being sarcastic about it and saying it as a joke, or maybe was it Mike's actual Mustang that he drove all the way up there.
Interesting.
Because they had a whole little photo shoot, and they cut the ribbon, and it was just. Now I wonder whose Mustang is that.
We're going to have to look into that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, it'd be nice if they gave it to him, sure.
Yeah.
I mean, he said, it's a dream come true. Any honor that comes after this is just complete icing on the cake. Is it? I mean, I guess so, because he had his number retired already.
Yeah.
Very honored, special thrill. As I mentioned in my speech, Port St. Lucie is a very special place in my heart. He had some amazing spring trainings there. The saddest part was that, he wished his father could be there, who's very
Yeah, that was
ill.
very emotional,
Yeah.
very
Well,
sentimental.
he's
He was
so
very touched by it.
sentimental. He's very
like he
Yeah.
was choking up.
he's
all the
very
thing, yeah.
Italian in that way, which I've noticed. And I can say it, I'm half Italian. He's very when you think about family not being there and the person who got to do it, like his father, and
Of course.
Yeah.
like I was there when they put him in the Mets Hall of Fame. I wasn't there for when they retired his number, but like his father is so important to him. Like he's like when it comes to baseball and his career. So it's sad.
Yeah.
It's very sad. So, bless all of them. But it's a great honor. Jeff Wilpon got goosebumps about it, but I still think he's like, it's like when we did the Tom Seaver Street naming outside Citi Field. It just seems natural. It's natural because they're in the Hall of Fame. It isn't natural because you don't honor anybody else, and that's a problem. We'll see. Oh, hi, Hannah.
Hey,
we'll see what happens when David Wright is a few years out of retirement and if they start naming stuff after
That's
him.
true.
Hopefully they don't wait until the end of time.
Hopefully by the time they do it, he's gone and Steve Cohen will do it right. But, Mike,
Thank
good for
you.
So, moving on to something very near and dear to my heart. Jessica Mendoza, the greatest softball player who ever lived. Hi. The greatest softball player that ever lived. Had some now controversial comments about this whole Astros thing. So she went on the Golick and Wingo show. Golick. Go away, Hannah. Yesterday and spoke about the Astros controversy. What is it?
Golick.
Gollum. You have a problem with Mike Fiers leaving the Astros, going to another team, and then going public with all this? And she said,
Going public, yeah, I get it if you're with the Oakland A's and you're on another team. I mean, heck yeah, you better be telling your teammates, look, hey, heads up, if you hear some noises when you're pitching, this is what's going on for sure. But to go public, yeah, it didn't set well with me. Honestly, it made me sad for the sport, and that's how this all got found out. This wasn't something that MLB naturally investigated or that even other teams complained about because they naturally heard about it and then investigations happened. It came from within. It was a player that was a part of it that benefited from it during the regular season when he was a part of that team. That, when I first heard about it, it hits you like any teammate would, right? It's something that you don't do. I totally get telling your future teammates, helping them win, letting people know. But to go public with it and call them out and start all of this, it's hard to swallow.
a lot of people are taking that as like she condones the cheating and she's more pissed about him being a snitch.
No, he's a whistleblower in the situation.
Yeah.
He is a whistleblower, but I get trying to be a team, trying to have that camaraderie, and trying to do things for each other.
Mm-hmm.
I don't necessarily think that she's trying to condone the cheating, though.
I don't think she is, but it seems
It
like she
did
just
come off
she
the wrong
spoke.
way.
Her words were ill chosen in a
Yeah.
live moment. How do you feel about people who are only upset about the fact that it was found out?
You know what? It had to have been found out. Someone, if it wasn't Mike Fiers, then it would have been another player.
Because
It would've-
as Met fans, we're actually affected by it.
We are
Absolutely.
affected.
I'd say the only teams affected are the Astros,
The
the
Red
Yankees,
Sox.
the Red Sox, us, and the Dodgers at this point.
Which
'Cause
are
we-
probably the 5 bigger teams in
Absolutely.
the
Yeah.
MLB.
So as a Met fan, are you kind of pissed that the whistle was blown and now we're screwed as a result?
No, I'm
No.
not pissed that the whistle was blown. Oh, hey, Hannah. What happened with Beltran, that was a product of the media.
Mm-hmm.
That was Rob Manfred, where Beltran, at the time in 2017, was a player. He was the only player named in that report.
Mm-hmm.
So when you tell me there's hand his ass in the frame,
I was trying to move that.
yeah. So you can't say that because Mike Fiers blew the whistle on this, it's his fault that the Mets are out of a manager as we're speaking. Because you know what? Beltran was involved. Someone else would have spoken up, and Mike Fiers specifically said there were people that were cheating, stealing signs, finding ways to go around the system. With what Jessica Mendoza said, her words were twisted, but I'm sorry, Met fans, you can't get upset that Mike Fiers blew the whistle and now we're out of a manager.
If Carlos had blown the whistle, one, do you think he would still have a job? Two, how would you feel that he did?
He would have a job.
I don't think so, because I think he's going to have to take a long time to get to the point where the front office is trusting him, and maybe they trust him a little bit more because he has come forward, but they're going to be second guessing him along the way, making sure that he's going to comply with these regulations that they have set.
I don't think he would have a job. I just don't think for that reason. I think it would have still been like, you still have to pay your penance.
Yeah.
That's true.
But
he is gonna now after this whole thing like really blows over, like he's gonna take a break from baseball.
He's gonna have to do him for a while, and people will forgive. They won't forget.
People forget about baseball, especially with the whole steroid era, and then now the ball is supposedly being juiced or whatever the case is.
Mm-hmm.
How long do you think it will take fans to actually forgive and maybe even forget?
Man, you know what?
5
Some
years,
fans are a bit
10
salty
years?
about the 2016.
I'm not pointing
the
any
2006
elbows, but,
called third strike.
Met fans, I don't even know if Met fans are angry at him. I think they're more angry at the situation, which is why
it was a
I
media
feel I asked
storm
that
he
question.
got caught up
yeah,
in.
I asked that question of like, what if he had? Are we upset that the whistle was even blown because now it's affecting us? Because I what I've read is Met fans aren't like, you cheated, now you're getting your comeuppance. It's just like, damn, we're out of a manager.
That's what it is.
Indifference. I think it's just a matter of like, we got affected by the circumstance. Crap. Like, what do we do now?
Like, are you mad at him?
No.
Are you?
No.
So it's not even about forgiving. It's about how long till it's socially and not even socially, but like almost politically, in the sense of like the politics of baseball, acceptable for him to come back.
Here's the thing. Fans, once we get a manager and the regular season starts, opening day, fans are going to forget about it.
Unless we lose.
Then
the what if of...
Then it's going to come back like, oh, well, what if Carlos would have, kept his mouth shut, did the right thing? And
I agree with that. You don't think that'll come up at all?
In what?
Like if we come out
certainly.
to at any point we just start going on a downward slope, and it's because
not,
of Brody, Mickey S kind of managing. If it's because of bad managerial decisions, will then you think yourself and other fans be like,
yeah, but Beltran isn't an established manager. This would have been his first year.
But
Agreed.
It's still what if? We don't know. We have no idea what he would have brought to the table. We have no idea what.
But
he
you don't
changed.
think other fans?
I think people would at least start the conversation and say, "What if we had him? What would have changed? What would have been different? Like, would we have won?"
I think there are those fans that are just not going to think about it.
Fans were going crazy when they wanted Girardi, and Beltran was a consolation prize for them. There's those fans to go back to say Beltran was going to be the savior of this organization.
How many teams?
Please.
How many fans wanted Terry gone, and then the second Mickey started fucking them, go, well, we should have kept Terry.
Look, that was in the past. But what I'm saying, fine, you could find the scapegoat to blame the Mets for losing, but at the end of the day, it is whoever the Mets put now in place. It's their responsibility. Yeah. Whether you put in Mullins to be like you're the manager of the Mets, you worked with Beltran closely with these past couple months to really bring the players together to establish a chemistry in this clubhouse. By all means, but come on, it's absolutely absurd to say that it is Beltran's fault.
I agree with you. I just know there's going to be those.
But there is going to be that one person
but you know
who
what?
sparks the fire and sparks the conversation.
But there's always going to be naysayers. There's always going to be people that are saying, oh, what if? Then you know what?
And there's going to be press that says that too.
Absolutely.
You know you're going to have people on SNY debating about it. Yeah. This is going to loom over us for a while. So maybe the question is less, when is he forgiven? When does the what if, the looming shadow, if we end up not having a winning season for a while, go away? And that I think this is going to be something.
Right away.
Not for a while. I don't think.
We had a winning season with Mickey Callaway.
Okay, so but we're
But,
talking
okay, sorry,
hypothetically if we
playoffs.
don't really have like a good season.
If this team doesn't go to the next level.
Yes.
It's Brody's fault. It's Brody's and the Wilpons' fault.
But will
I agree.
everybody see it that way?
Yes. Because
Okay.
they're the team that or they're the office that brings in these players.
Mm-hmm.
They're the one who brought in Beltran to manage. You're telling me that they're gonna blame Beltran for their losing woes if it happens? No, they're gonna say Brody brought Beltran in. It's his fault that the Mets are losing. Same thing as last year. We failed to make the playoffs because we didn't have a bullpen. Mickey was pretty much a puppet.
But there are those people, and I've seen it just in the last day or so with this whole thing breaking, that are addicted to the official story. The official story is, I had no idea. So we hired them. So they don't look at it in the sense that we look at it was like, come on, dude, common sense, you knew because we all knew. And this is your best friend who's the manager, and this one, you spent all this time with him. There are people who believe the official story who are like, Brody didn't know. Poor Brody. Poor the Mets.
No, Brody knew, man.
We know this.
What
I'm
you're
talking
saying,
about the people out there
as people who
who
follow
then
the
are going to
official
be
story.
like, and then there are people who are going to be like, well, shit, Carlos was such a great player. I'm sure he would have been great. Oh man, he really screwed us on this. Yeah. I think there's going to be that, even if it's a small minority, a vocal minority of people, both in the press and the fans, who are going to bitch and complain if we don't get to that next level and act like Carlos hurt us directly, because they are addicted to the official story, and they are addicted to constantly being like the Mets were with Lucas Duda for like 8 years or however long it was. This season we're going to see what we got. Oh, this season Brody's going to take that next step too. And it's just I feel like this is going to be divisive, and we don't need it. The three of us are in agreement. We know it's Brody. We know that it's the next person's job.
Right now, you guys are playing devil's advocate.
Yeah. And not devil's advocate. Just like I know these nuts
opinion,
people. Yeah.
Well, then you know what? And then, so, fine, let me go on the up. What if the Mets win without Beltran?
Oh, then it's going to be thank God.
Yeah. They're going to be like, wow, maybe Beltran would have messed this up. However,
there would be that small minority of people, well, what if Beltran would actually negatively
then now you're being rich.
Yeah.
It's a slippery slope.
I would say just like a smaller, very smaller portion.
It's the grass is greener on the other side, always minority.
So now let's
people.
talk about the Mets. Yeah. Essentially, you lose out on Zach Wheeler, but the Mets and Todd Frazier now. The Mets have the same team with a couple of additions from Porcello, Waka, Marisnik, and now the return of Cespedes.
Yeah.
You have this. The Mets had a winning record last year with these guys. Mm-hmm. They're going into a new year now where where this NL East is stacked, where the Washington Nationals. They lost Anthony Rendon, so you don't know if they're still going to have the same power in their lineup.
Lost Rendon.
Yeah, the Braves, they lost Donaldson, but they got Cole Hamels. They had a few other additions. So this is still going to be a division to compete for.
Yeah.
Did it get easier for the Mets with the fact that both of our rivals lost their third baseman? Who knows? But in say the roster stays exactly the same it is, this Mets team needs to go in and compete. As Pete Alonso said, that it's their job to play between the lines and to bring, fine. I hope that they bring a World Series championship to New York next year in 2020. Is it going to happen? We don't know. That's up in the air. But it's their job to at least bring us to a winning record to prove that the Mets organization is a contender, not only in the NL East, but in the National League to go after a World Series.
They have to prove that they're more than this. More than this scandal.
Absolutely.
But this is a team that can do it, though.
This is a team that
can do it.
That's why
This team fought last year.
They did with the roller coaster ride that was going on. You're telling me 86 wins with all the drama? That would be hard to believe. Just missing out on the wild card. A couple more wins there, a couple more blown saves there. Say those didn't happen, the Mets would probably be that second wild card.
Yeah, completely different.
So you can't to make this full circle. You can't blame Beltran. In any of this, he was a victim of the consequence of what happens. It shows karma follows you wherever you go, and that's it. You move on. Hopefully now Brody and the Wilpons, they make the right decision in bringing in the next manager.
Amen to that. You're so bad.
That was because when you're telling me that the Mets are gonna,
No, I'm
fans
not.
are gonna,
We weren't fighting
yeah.
you, but you
No.
see some of those comments. Oh my goodness.
It's
So
ridiculous.
real quick, the Mets have changed, and this is something that we got into the other day.
We're gonna probably have another heated discussion now.
The Mets.
20 minutes later.
The Mets have Free Shirt Fridays was for all fans for the last several years since they started it, and now it is only for the first 25,000 fans enter the stadium.
All right,
I have an
so-
issue with this. Victor has an issue with me having an issue with this. What do you
Does
feel like?
actually have an issue on this?
I mean, thinking about me, I like to get to the game at a certain time because I want to see things happen. So if I'm going to show up on time, I'm going to show up a little early. I deserve a shirt. You're going to show up later in the game. Do you really deserve a shirt?
Screw you then, yeah. Now, my take is
So, just to know, the Free Shirt Friday isn't going away. It's just being reduced.
Yes.
To the first 25,000.
The first 25,000, yes. And Victor brought up all the points of, dude, there's always extra shirts to give away at the spinny wheel.
There's
and
always extra shirts, but didn't they also say that they
This is on
only
the
give
side.
out about like 27,000 anyways?
something like that.
No. I said that that the average fan attendance at Citi Field last year was about 28,000.
Okay, so realistically, we're only cutting out 5%, less than 5% of people?
I mean, I want to hear Shane's point on this as to why he's upset.
Yeah, I feel like it's not even so
Why do
much
you feel
about the
like we're
shirts
wrong?
themselves. The shirts I use in the paint or clean in. I don't particularly love them. They don't fit me because I'm fat.
They're never the right size.
They're never the right size, and they always got usually an ugly logo on them. Some of them are cool, but they're just not good material to keep wearing outside. That being said, to me, it's less about the shirts and it's more about another peg in the endless cycle, another example of how the Wilpons treat the fans. It's just saying these shirts that when in bulk and you're a huge corporation cost you next to nothing to make. It's like, all right, so and being a kid, a poor kid growing up who never got to go to baseball games, only went to a baseball game because someone gave them free tickets, and we got there late because my best friend's father drove us and we got in the traffic. Had there been a giveaway, we would have missed it. That was the one game I got to go to growing up. The kids who go there, the families who this is their one outing per year, they have a right to get that. Because you're spending money, prices are higher than ever. You can't really bring in a decent amount of food. Some food you can bring in, but like you're paying an arm and a leg if you have kids. They've already screwed them over, as we hate with the backpack policy, not having stroller check at the stadium, which most stadiums do, not having giveaways on most nights, how a lot of other teams do it. And now they're just going to say these rinky-dinky, shitty shirts that adults don't want, but kids might love, might hang on their wall like a poster because it's a Cespedes shirt or it's a Conforto shirt or something like that. Now, a certain segment, not a lot, but on a Friday night, especially if this team's competing, is going to be the most packed. They might miss out on that. I just think that's just shitty.
They're really cutting costs.
Oh, of course, yeah, that's what they're doing. They're cutting costs.
In previous years, have you seen them cut other areas?
Oh yeah,
of
it keeps happening. The fact that like you can't get. I love Angry Orchard, right? We used to always drink Angry Orchard on the show.
That was
Can't get that any day except Friday and Saturday. And sometimes not even on Friday if they think they haven't sold enough tickets. They keep certain stands closed with certain things. And then some stands I went to the playoffs in 2015. The Section 505 concession stand wasn't even open. The stadium was over capacity. They didn't even open that because they didn't want to pay a few extra chefs. It's just an example. When they streamlined the backpack thing, it was so they could have less security at the rotunda. Mm-hmm. It's all this. It's just constant examples to how they just want to pinch pennies, and it's going to be a long 5 years till they're gone, if indeed that does happen. And for me, it's just yet another example of that. And for me, this is like the most. You're not paying a pension, you're not paying health benefits or any of this stuff to people who you're cutting down in staff and security. You're just saying, oh, we're not going to spend for an extra couple of $1,000s, which is chump change, for shirts. And for me, it's less about the shirts and it's more about a child's experience, who this is their only experience, because it's going to happen out there. Maybe it's not every game, but it's going to happen. And just saying, we don't care about you.
Okay.
That
was very heartfelt. Look, I feel for the kids.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the Mets do have things.
Victor has a cold heart.
I don't have
No, he has a very warm heart.
But all right, there are still things for kids that go to the game. You have the Mr. Met Dash. You have the spin the wheel You know, there's things that can keep things interactive. You know,
Sure.
you can't say that a T-shirt on a Friday, or say the Mets play every other Friday at Citi Field, is gonna make or break a fan. 25,000.
It could make or break an experience, but I
But
don't think
no,
if they're gonna come to the game, I feel like they're gonna
Listen,
come no
if they were
matter
giving
what.
out bobbleheads every single game, then you know what? I'd be a little bit butthurt because I'll be like, damn, you know,
Yeah.
I wanted
Yeah.
I wanted a bobblehead. But you're telling me for a T-shirt, and I've been to the Free Shirt Friday
Yeah.
games. That's what sold me. But when I showed up and I see
It's crap.
it's crap. All right, say you're a kid. Do you want a Budweiser sponsored shirt?
When I was
As
a kid,
parent, do
well,
you
look,
want
you know
your
what? Let me
child
show you
to
something
have
real quick.
this?
Actually, keep talking.
Look, alluding
Stay
to
tuned.
Shane's point, yeah, there are people who are gonna miss out on these shirts, but it's not a big deal. Average fan attendance at Citi Field last year was 28,000. So there's 3,000 fans that miss out. If you really want to do it for the kids and be like, you know what, refuse to take a shirt at the front and
I
then
understand
pass
that.
it on to the next person.
I understand that, but
Oh,
it's
I
not
like that.
necessarily going to go to a kid, and also it shouldn't be the hardworking, a minimum wage person's
Yeah.
responsibility to say, "Oh, make sure this gets to a kid," because they're just going to hand it whoever comes in. It's necessarily
Yeah.
going to get to a kid. It should be on the billionaires to do it. And I'll say, like, look at this. This is my very first glove ever. I couldn't afford. Sorry, Ashley, I'm blocking you. Couldn't afford a glove. The Mets were awesome in the '80s and donated a bunch of gloves, mostly paid for by Kool-Aid to organizations and to different little leagues and to different organizations for kids, and I loved it. This is one of the things that did cement my fanhood with the Mets, and I know what it's
I feel
like to
like
be a
that's a
kid.
little bit more
And
hardcore
It is
than
more
a
hardcore
shirt.
than a shirt.
All right, but this is a baseball glove. I didn't have baseball gloves either.
Yeah.
I remember like one of my neighbors gave me my first baseball glove, and you know
amazing.
what? I still use it. I still use it to play softball. with
Really?
you guys.
That's
Yeah.
that glove.
That was
Wow.
the glove that they gave me. But you know
Can't
what?
fit in this, but
Yeah.
but like I get, and yes, it is a different
so
thing.
there
like,
are different
when
things.
you're sitting there and you're like, oh, they have that. I wish I had that.
But man, you're telling me
T-shirt.
there's
You're
people.
talking about a T-shirt.
But there's people
Yeah.
who throw these T-shirts. They leave them in the stands. People wipe the water off
Yep.
like there are rags. There are still things for a fan to experience at Citi Field.
Agreed.
It's not like they're going into Shea Stadium where it was a little bit older. There wasn't
True.
as much
True,
fan
true, true.
interactions.
Yeah.
It's
You
not
know
the
what?
worst thing in the world.
And you know what? Look, we live in a digital age now where you take a picture. You can take a selfie with, say you take your kids.
Mr.
Right.
Met's always
Or
there.
Mr.
to
Met's
take a
around
picture
there,
with.
take a
That's
picture,
true.
you hang up that picture. You know what? You cherish that moment more than a stupid
T-shirt that doesn't fit you.
I don't know.
No, that's very-
like
that's
a
all very
Cespedes
It's all about the
52
experience.
jersey
Yeah.
or T-shirt, whatever, and then that's it. I feel like you. It's,
No, you're right about that. You are right about that. I don't.
I feel
I
like
still
cutting,
think it's shitty, but
cutting
yeah.
the cost is where it gets shitty because we're pinching pennies and we're
Yeah.
trying to remove costs here and there and we're not thinking of the repercussions. But to Victor's point, there are still other things that bring people there. There are other things that will still maintain that experience for the little kids to come.
and say,
If
look,
they reduce
so look,
bobbleheads to 10,000.
oh yeah, then we're going on strike. Just to cap it off. All right, so it was a great matchup. Say 30,000 fans end up going to the game. There are 10,000 shirts, or even possibly more, that are just sitting around. What are you gonna do with them? Like I'm saying in a hypothetical, say last year when they were giving out T-shirts to every single fan. What are they gonna do with those extra shirts?
Well, they do give away the spindle wheel when they have
Okay,
them.
fine. You get rid of 5,000.
I would donate them. There's a lot of people who need T-shirts in the
That's
summertime. There's
true.
a lot of homeless. There's a lot of orphans. There's a lot of people who need that. And
Yeah, but fine. At least make shirts that are according to size. If you give everyone who
An extra
is,
large.
I
who
grew
is
up on
less
hand-me-downs.
fortunate
Believe me,
on
size.
extra large shirts.
When you get a new shirt and you're not
Yeah.
wearing the same shirt that you've been wearing
It
all for
doesn't
no,
like
I mean,
size don't matter.
but I completely
Yeah,
understand. But there
yeah.
should be other things that should be given away
Oh,
aside
absolutely.
from T-shirts. Where
Absolutely.
it should
Like
be
the-
undergarments,
Yeah.
pants, coats,
Like
long
the,
sleeve,
every home
especially now.
run, no kid hungry
Yeah, so-
meals thing.
Yeah.
They do that and like that. I mean, it's all great. I think it's all part of your
But
responsibility. To
I
community.
also think about the ecological footprint that it takes because creating these shirts, it's not like
Yeah.
they make them out of air. They use a ton of water to create even a single T-shirt and to harvest that cotton and to actually make it into these promos, a giveaway that people end up using as trash or
True.
whatever, as rags. It's not.
But if it goes to charity, then is it worth it? If the extra goes to charity,
It
then it's worth
always
it.
is worth it if it goes to
Yeah, but
charity.
then shouldn't, instead of the money being spent on a T-shirt, I'd rather get.
I mean, they're paying these guys. They just
yeah.
gave Mike Piazza possibly.
No, but what I'm saying, like, I'd rather give the
Yeah.
money to foundations that are in need
Yeah.
versus giving them 10,000 Ahmed Rosario T-shirts.
I actually agree
Yeah,
with that.
no, I mean,
because that way
yeah.
they can use the money where they see fit.
But they're not going to do that.
Look, man.
They're not going to do either one. So
Look, the Mets, they
It's
broke
unfortunate.
last year. They
Points.
broke a record in hitting home runs. So I hope they're able to top that and
That'd be
help
nice.
help the kids out.
it depends on how juiced the balls are. And now
All right.
it's time for
Mets memes.
Mets memes and MLB memes. First up,
There's a lot of good memes.
Yes.
the Mets will win it all in 2020. Just keep repeating it to yourself.
Yeah, that's
Please,
like a
God.
Bart Simpson.
And now, prefaces, some of these are before the news came down about Beltran, but they're still funny.
Yeah. What's going on? That's on your side, Shane.
What the Astros did was worse than what Pete Rose did. Change my mind. Agreed.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Pete Rose should be reinstated.
I agree.
They
He was
keep
banned
calling
for
on
life.
him whenever they need him to show for a public appearance to make the money. Like when the game was at Cincinnati, and they brought him out as the one of the all time best for their Mount Rushmore, whatever for the Reds. Like, enough is enough.
Yeah.
Enough is enough. He gambled. He didn't even gamble on his team to lose. He's paid his pennies.
What
I
is
had a
this,
funny sign
sign?
planned for this week, but the Astros stole it. And on that same
The theft
vein,
is real.
if you're waiting on a sign from God, Alex Cora probably stole it. The Pope.
Hannah.
And
yes,
Hannah.
Hannah
And
agrees.
Hannah.
The Pope didn't actually say
Yeah.
that, but you know what? Maybe the young Pope said it on HBO. Pete Rose again. The face you make when the Astros manager gets caught cheating and is only suspended for a year. Nothing more factual than that at all. And so this next one, Victor, would you like to take it?
Yeah, this was Mets fans waiting to see if they will have a manager tomorrow.
Which-
That was everyone waiting to see what would happen.
Which that's another one that this is the latest one in Victor's.
This is an original
Baby Yoda.
meme content.
That's right, and he put that up on Wednesday, the day before it happened.
day it
and
happened, yeah.
People were like,
People,
yep.
yeah. So we appreciate the support on that.
And you know what? It's still relevant.
yeah. Let's see how long it
Sure.
can last for.
That's right. You either die a hero or live long enough to become the villain.
Dun, dun, dun.
Little Dark Knight kind of thing going on there, and it is weird that no one's really mad at him, but he
Yeah.
did cheat. He did become the villain.
Maybe he's an anti-hero.
I don't know about that.
I'm interested to see in maybe like 20 years from now when a documentary comes out about this to really see how if
How
they
people are
find
affected.
anything.
Pop quiz time.
Dun,
In
dun.
5 years, when he is a manager, where is he a manager?
Ooh, that is a good question.
I don't think he will be.
With the Astros.
What?
If he is, or I don't think he will be a manager in 5 years.
Let's say hypothetically he becomes a manager. Where?
San Francisco.
Yeah, sure.
That's what I said. I was like, with the Astros?
You said I didn't hear you.
I would say San Francisco.
I would love to end up being the Yankees manager.
Oh
it
my
would just
God, that would
turn
be
their
laughable.
hypocrisy even more.
Everything would be, like, brought up immediately.
Yeah, right.
He wouldn't even touch New York. Guaranteed.
But you don't even think he'll be a manager.
Nah, I doubt it.
I don't think so either.
I think he will.
He could be involved in like a bench coach or something, but I don't think he'd be a manager.
I actually agree with that.
I think he will.
He has. I
I
think
hope
he would
you're
be
right, though.
involved in baseball in general, just not in a manager.
Yeah, or maybe
position.
an advisor, but
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe. We'll see. Ashley, you want to take this one?
Sure, this former MLB player can now say he never lost a game as a Mets manager, which is something no other Mets managers can say.
Who is?
Carlos Beltran.
Yeah. Alex Trebek.
Let's go to the next one. Congrats to Beltran on being undefeated in his tenure with the #Mets.
Facts.
So sad, so sad.
And now what I call the unholy trinity. Ashley, you found this one.
Yeah, the Three Stooges. I thought this was hilarious. All three of them together.
All pain, no
No
brain. AJ Hinch, Carlos Beltran, and Alex Cora.
So sad.
He doesn't even have a hat on.
I mean, does he deserve the way the Mets hat anymore?
And then for our last meme, Ashley. So more SRONY original content.
content.
This was Ashley's. Wayfan, the accusations were around in 2017. Everyone knew about it. You met with Beltran for 6 hours. How did that not come up?
Mistakes were made.
Yeah. That's the classic Brody face
Classic
and reaction.
Brody.
Perfection. Love that one. You guys are the best. So here's the meme that we put up. It's actually not a meme. It's a video that Victor was like, the second that he was fired, because my friend texts me like, bye-bye, Beltran. I'm like, oh, shit. So I text to them like, oh, my God. And so Victor's like, let's put this up.
Yeah.
And so you want to explain it?
Yeah, so the meme, we'll put this up on our screen later, but just to describe to you guys, if anyone's a huge fan of The Office, I am. There's an episode where Michael
Scott.
Michael Scott, he has to, there's a fire drill going on, and everyone just has to stay calm, but clearly Michael has to over-exaggerate everything.
Don't panic!
Yeah.
Don't panic!
So
we're not right now going to play the audio because of copyright infringements
we
on
can't play the
YouTube,
audio.
but like, he's just, you can see what he's saying, and everyone's seen this.
It's on
Don't panic! Don't panic!
Everybody stay calm. That's what everybody stay calm. So that you can check out on Instagram. There's a lot of people who liked it and shared it. I saw the insights on it. So thank you. We appreciate it.
And so that's it for Mets memes.
Yeah, thank you for tuning in. And this is a wrap on the episode. Yes, episode 17.
First of the year?
Yeah,
First of the year.
2020.
First of the year.
Passionate.
Yeah.
Passionate
It was
episode.
definitely a passionate episode.
It was good.
It's a big change in Metsville, so
Yeah.
it's great that like we got so many people on here. We got Anthony on here.
Yeah, which was
Amazing.
awesome. And then also we have the Jeopardy episode coming out soon.
Yeah, very soon we're gonna have some content.
So we collaborated with Mets Updates.
John from Mets Updates.
Yeah, John from Mets Updates.
And who guested on the show early in this show last year. And Ashley created a lot of original questions, and we formulated into a
props to her.
Jeopardy-esque type of environment
Our
setting.
first Mets
Yeah,
challenge.
so that's why there's no quiz this episode.
No quiz this
However,
episode.
Because you will be getting so much of it in the next
Yeah,
episode.
you'll be bombarded.
Yes.
Too many
So that'll come out in different parts soon. So keep an eye out for that. And in the meantime, I'm Shane.
I'm Ashley.
And I'm Victor.
Like, share, subscribe, follow, all that good junk.
On Standing Room Only
Yeah.
NY.
Thank you for tuning in.
We'll try
Do it again. You missed. Here, try it one more time.
Well, I'm supposed to hit the camera with the whole, I was trying to
Just
avoid
gotta
hitting
go
it.
I mean, you got
over.
it. Yeah,
Alright.
it's
And go.
There we go.
something
You
like
did
that.
Good night.
Success.
That was a fail. It still failed.
We're still recording, guys.
Yeah.